At this time, I would like for us to welcome Jay as he brings us our morning message.
How incredibly nice it is to stand here in front of many faces and the eyes. Sometimes it's challenging whenever you're zoomed and you don't get to talk to live bodies like face to face like we are right now. Our theme today is seek the welfare of the city. And I want to talk about community. I want to talk about roots. I want to talk about the challenges that we face and how that we can overcome and be a better citizen in the communities in which we live. The theme comes from a scripture in Jeremiah 29:1. And this is what it says. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord, for it, because it prospers, you too shall prosper. This was a letter provided by Jeremiah to the people in exile. And they were expecting from the prophets that they would return quickly to their land. And they thought that they would all be back rehoused where they were in less than 70 years. And in reality, that did not take place for many, 300 years. Our church believes in community. It believes as its core value in the value of the people that make up the community. This ideal is in our enduring principles, the blessings of community. And from that principle, we are reminded of the gospel of Jesus Christ is expressed best in community life, where all people become vulnerable to God's grace and to each other. True community includes compassion for and solidarity with the poor, the marginalized, and the oppressed. And it also upholds the worth of all persons while providing a healthy alternative to self-centeredness, isolation, and conformity. And our sacred community provides nurture and growth opportunities for all people, especially those who cannot fully care for themselves. Whenever the people went into exile, it was much a population of us and them. They felt uprooted. I believe everybody in this room today has been uprooted one time or another. Is that not true? Is anybody truly just their roots and their growth has all been right here at this very place? I grew up in a couple of small communities in southeastern Illinois. It was a small town, two small towns that are about an hour east of St. Louis, halfway between St. Louis and Evansville, Indiana. Commonly known to many church-going people as the Bible Belt. Lots of very dedicated Southern Baptists and some dedicated Pentecostal religious faith movers. And close to our home was the Brush Creek campgrounds to our church. That was one of the earliest campgrounds ever established. And we are probably, I would guess, maybe 4 hours south of Nauvoo, 5 hours south of Chicago. So you kind of get the context there. My family settled in that part of the country. My ancestors did at the turn of the 19th century, early 1800s. And Illinois became a state in 1820. They were early farmers there. My wife's family settled from Ireland into farming in 1870s. And their roots are right there where their roots ever were. In 1966, my family moved from Mount Vernon to Salem, Illinois, about 20 miles north. And it was an uprooting for my family because my parents had never, ever lived out of the town in which they were raised, and their grandparents and their great-grandparents. And they're all buried there. I can go visit anytime I want. Our roots ran deep. And in Leah's family and in other church members' families, their roots ran deep as well. And many of those roots ran deep within this church movement. Generations were there, and generations of our family attended the Brush Creek campgrounds. And several now are buried over there. The roots run deep. And that causes the community to be so tied together. So you can imagine whenever these people were exiled and they left those roots, they left that community and they were taken to a foreign place. And all their roots were gone. All their community was gone. So God counsels them through Jeremiah. You need to embrace these people. You need to embrace their ways. This is your place now. This is where your new roots will be, which is a lot of what we've done here at Shenandoah. We were uprooted, we came, we planted new roots and expanded families and opportunities. Seek the welfare of the city where I've sent you into exile. I don't think we were exiled here, but sometimes it feels like you are in exile when you are different from all those around you. Whenever I was in Salem, the town that I finished high school in, we lived there from 66 until my parents moved here. And my roots were really within the church. My friends were the church friends. There were 4 of us in Zion's League, my brother and I, and Kim Stormont, or Kim Job was one of those. And they had recently relocated back to Salem where Kim's roots were from. And they moved to Danville, I guess with the railroad with her dad's work, and then moved back. And Kim's family roots go back for many, many generations. And Kim and I were in the same grade in junior high and high school together. And we shared the same music teacher. Mrs. Wilson taught everybody in town piano lessons if they really wanted them. And she studied in Paris, and she was an opera singer in New York. And she married her husband in our town and moved there. And in order to keep the music going, she became the one that instructed us all. And those roots run deep. To this day, there's still students around the world that are singing and playing. Some went on to New York and became opera performers, but many of them ended up like many of us. Were still active in our music one way or the other. Mrs. Wilson helped me in 1969, I believe, prepared for the planning for my first church service. And she helped me play some of those first hymns so that I could play them for church. And so that was more than 50 years ago whenever I started playing for church services. And just the families every month through our food pantry. We are helping people. Last month, we expended over $30,000 to help with rents and utilities to keep people in shelter. And we're seeing numbers driven like we haven't seen in the last decade. People that walk in my door every day that are anxious and fearful. They don't know where tomorrow is going to bring them funds food, shelter, whether their kids are going to have the lights disconnected when they get home from school. Jeremiah tells the exiles in Babylon, do whatever you have to do to survive this and live. Do whatever you need to do to survive and live. Pretty basic. Live here. Make your life here. Meanwhile, live and love and fully and comprehensively as if you were with us here in Jerusalem. And then he tells them more. They shouldn't just expand their families and lives. They should proactively promote the welfare of Babylonians and that have them captive. Oh, the people that are different from us, we need to embrace them. That's kind of a foreign thought too. Yes, we are still called to embrace those that are different, those that captivate us, perhaps our enemies, those that are probably not native to our neighborhood. The hostages in Babylon are told to make their captivity into a time of spiritual discipline, and in that, a time of showing true mercy to all around them, even their captors, even their neighbors who don't support their captivity or just can't be bothered to care. Oh, there's an interesting thought. Be bothered to care. We are called to be bothered to care. We are called to make a difference in the lives of others. We are called to care. And we are called to be the peacemaker. So for all of those that are struggling from whatever is the cause of their challenges, we are called to be the peacemaker. So can you do that? What can you do? Sometimes it's easy to put a couple of cans in the donation bucket that goes to fuel the food pantries. That helps. Sometimes, it helps to send your check to Salvation Army or whatever and buy toys for the kids at Christmas, or now we're raising turkey funds. That's the easy part. Where's the hard part? Where's the hard part where you're supposed to take your arms and embrace those that are different, those that are challenged? And you never know when you walk down the street tomorrow, the next day, when you're in the grocery store, that the person that needs embracing is in line with you at the store. I hope you feel affirmed, free, and fully alive. I hope this is exactly where you want to be. No matter how you feel or where you are, you can seek the welfare of the community around you, for its welfare is intimately tied up in your own. Your welfare is tied up in the welfare of the others with whom you embrace. Perhaps you have something in common with the Judeans in Babylon. You may not be in exile, but like them, you know yourself to be the other. You may be the other because of the way you think, or the way you look, or the culture that you come from, your language, or something about your identity, or the things you believe. Back to Salem, whenever Kim and I were in high school and we were the Zion's Leaguers there, we felt like we had this band of brothers, that we were the ones that were in church, my goodness, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and on Wednesdays, because our dads were pastors or whatever. And I always felt like we were the outsiders because we were churched. And I didn't really realize the depth of some of the persons I went to high school with, how church that they were. And it's really interesting now to look on Facebook and see the dedication and the involvement of some folks that I thought would never find their 2 feet inside of a church. And I always smile thinking, oh my goodness, it's like they really have a dedication to their faith. And the other thing is those involved in music continued to do that. So for those that grow up with and in music, it's a lifetime of enjoyment and commitment and sharing the welfare with the others. It wasn't always easy to be different. We look around and think that everyone, everywhere is different. Actually, it is only I that was different and stared at. Jeremiah tells us that, especially when we know ourselves to be other, different, it's time for special spiritual discipline, for showing mercy to others, and for seeking their welfare. It is our otherness that may give us the capacity to do so. So if you are the other, celebrate your otherness. Celebrate your otherness, that thank God I'm a little bit different than my community. And then be grateful. Be grateful. The next part is gratitude for what our otherness can teach us. For the ways, as with the Samaritan, that it can be the key to salvation. And just think about the story in Luke and the lepers. They were so different, and they were exiled. They were banned. Don't touch, don't see, don't talk, don't get close to. So what a joy whenever they were healed, and especially the Samaritan that went back to thank God, to thank Jesus for bringing him along, because he was so isolated and felt so different and was part of the other world, to be included once again. So of the others, be acceptable and be forgiving. You know that from your own experiences what the ramifications on a human life can really be. What I want to say is that our otherness is understood and validated by God, who made us proudly who we are. And that God invites us at all times to reach out to the otherness of the world, and not as a handicap, but as a portal to a life of deepened faithfulness. Nothing comes cheaply. Just ask the hostages in Babylon, to whom the prophet said, seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you, and pray to God on their behalf, for it's in its welfare you will find your welfare. Later on in Jeremiah, he states, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, but plans to give you hope and a future. And that's how I'll close, that God has a plan for you. He has a future for you. He offers you peace and understanding, and loves your otherness, as we should also do.
Thank you. He gave us a lot to think about. He gave me a lot to think about. I think we're all blessed with what you brought to us today. Focus moment. Focus moment tells us that in today's message, we heard Jesus tell the disciples and followers that people will argue with him. That people will disagree about whether God's better way to live is the best. Sometimes people disagree with God's way because they must change their living to be aligned with God. But it is not our job to argue or convince people about whether they should live God's way or that it's the best way. Our job is to follow Jesus, to live God's way and be that light. Be the example of the world. You know, I don't know about you all, but I know about what happened in my life. And I always felt that I had to defend what I believe. And that would lead to arguing. That would lead to a lot of this. And it took me a long time to understand what we're called to do, what I was called to do. And it's pretty simple. If I just get rid of the emotional content of trying to defend. What's pretty simple about it, what God is asking us to do is share God's message, Christ's salvation, power of the Holy Spirit to others, to enlighten them. And after that, it's out of my hands. Boy, isn't it so hard to let go? Particularly after you told them what, hey, you know, here's the good news, but you don't see it. It was for me. But God tells us, you've done your job. It's in my hands now. So I can definitely relate to Jay's message today. And it's right down to it. It's pretty simple. The people who make it hard are us. And we forget that once we've done our job, he knows what is best. He will get involved. And on our job, it's pretty simple. We go to the next person and expose them to God, to Christ, and Holy Spirit. At this time, we're going to go into our closing hymn, our benedictory hymn. It's number 657. Make us, O God, a church that shares. Oh, how appropriate is that song, right? It's led by the Coles Choir. Talk about being blessed. We have a lot of songs out there led by the Coles Choir. And so I'm going to ask you to stand and stay standing during the benediction. And after the benediction, we'll ask John to open up Zoom so that everybody can join.